If you've never had birria tacos, they are some of the most delicious and flavorful tacos that you could have. So I had these for the first time at our local Mexican restaurant, and I knew right away that I needed to learn to make these on my own. So I've followed a couple of recipes, and over time kind of adapted the one that I like the most. I've put a couple of recipes together and just make the one that I like the most for my family. So I start by browning a chuck roast on both sides in a very thick bottomed enameled cast iron pot. I used a little bit of avocado oil for my pot roast, but you could use whatever oil that you like. So then I'm going to chop up the onions and garlic, and this is where you would also chop up or put a tomato in the oven with the onions and garlic, but I do not have any fresh tomatoes, so you'll see what I use here after a while. But I am putting about 6 to 8 cloves of garlic and a whole onion cut into 4 pieces onto a baking sheet, and I'm going to roast these vegetables in the oven until I get a little bit of char on them, and this is just building flavor for our birria. You definitely don't have to do this, but like I said, it makes a big difference in the flavor of what you get in the end. So then there are 3 different types of Mexican peppers that you will need. I will add them to the screen because I probably am not very good at pronouncing these, but you will need these 3 different peppers, and you want to take the tops off and take the seeds out if you don't want it too spicy. It's still pretty spicy, even taking the seeds out, but these peppers have really good flavor. And what I'm doing after I take the seeds out is I'm putting them in a pot of water, and I'm going to boil them for 15 minutes to rehydrate and soften these peppers so that we can blend them up into our sauce. Most of these peppers can be found at your local supermarket, but I did have to go to one of our Mexican stores here to find a couple of these peppers because I couldn't find them at our grocery store. But we do not live in an area that has really big chain grocery stores or stores, so that's where I got some of these. And you just want to make sure that you get the dried versions of these peppers. And don't worry, these seeds and tops will not go to waste. My chickens will absolutely love to have these. So now I'm just putting a little bit more water in my pot to make sure these peppers are covered all the way with water, and I'm just going to boil them for 15 minutes to soften them. So now I'm going to turn my pot roast over because it's browned on one side and let it brown on the other side. This is also another way that you add flavor to your meal. So now I'm going to make the birria sauce or the consomme. I'm adding 2 cups of chicken stock, but you can also add beef broth if you want to. This is just what I had on hand. And then I'm going to add about 2 cups of tomato sauce. Two tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Two teaspoons of salt. And 1 teaspoon of pepper. A teaspoon of cumin, a half a teaspoon of cloves, and a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And a teaspoon of Mexican oregano. and I did not have any fresh ginger, so I just added a couple of sprinkles of ginger in there, probably equal to about 1/4 of a teaspoon of ginger. So here are my onions and garlic that are all roasted. You can see they have a little bit of black char on the edges, and this will be delicious and add flavor. So we're gonna add this into the blender with the rest of the consomme ingredients. Now we're going to add our softened peppers, and then we're going to add a cup of the liquid from the softened peppers. You always want to be careful blending up hot things. You can see here that I put my spout up to let some of the hot air escape so that there were not any issues. But I blended this for about 1 minute until it was all blended together, and then poured it over my pot roast that I have seared on both sides. And then we're just going to cover this and let this sit on the stove and simmer for 6 to 8 hours until the chuck roast is nice and tender. You could also make this in an Instant Pot or cook it all day in a crock pot. So after this is simmered pretty much all day here at my house, and boy did it smell so good, I just took 2 forks. Well, I took a spoon first, but it didn't work out that well. I ended up getting 2 forks and just shredding all the meat in the consomme. On my cutting board, you could see that I have prepared some cilantro, some red onion. Traditionally, this is probably supposed to be some white onion, but I was out of white onion. And then I shredded some Monterey Jack cheese. You are supposed to have Mexican cheese, and I'll put the name of the cheese on the screen. But unfortunately, I could not find these cheeses in my local supermarkets here. So you just want to take a corn tortilla and dip it in your consomme, and then put it in. I use a cast iron skillet with a little bit of bacon grease in it, and I just put my cheese down, and then I put some of the shredded beef, and then I just flip it over and get it brown on both sides. I put some consomme in a little serving bowl to dip the taco in, and I believe traditionally you also put onion and cilantro inside of your taco if you want. I also added a little bit of extra cilantro into my consomme. Another thing that I like about Birria is that it freezes really well, and you can freeze the sauce and have it again at a later time. You don't have to have it as a taco, you can eat it as a soup, but it is very delicious and my family loves these. They actually ask me to make these very often in my household. Now, my family does like spicy things, so these are a bit spicy, so if you do not like spicy, you could add a little bit less of the dried peppers to your consomme and it may not be as spicy. These turn out beautiful, they're delicious, and they're always a hit in my family. I appreciate you stopping by. I hope you'll give this recipe a try, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!